Hello, good evening, and welcome to a live Tuesday night in the tea room. Hope everybody is well. Let me just introduce you to the rest of the panel. We have on my left Andy. Hello, Andy.
Hey, John. How is everybody doing? Good evening.
Thank you. And below me we have Palm. Hi, Palm. How are you doing, man?
How you doing? A bit man flued up, but hanging in there. Hanging in there.
Palm's got the man flu, everybody. Please pray for him. Thank you.
So, and lucky for you, aren't talking too much.
Absolute special guest is Ian Elliot from Elliot Brown Watches. Hello, Ian. Good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you for coming on the show. I'll just go through the comments to see what we have tonight. Okay, Batch Guitar. Matt H, as always. Good evening, Batch, and everybody that voted. Thank you, Matt H. Good evening. Ian Nicholson on the security tonight. Hello, Ian. Thank you very much. Marvellous. Whole Milk. I don't know.
Allez les Bleus. Those France are playing, so saying, come on, the Blues.
Is that right? Sorry.
In the World Cup, so there you go. I thought I'd translate.
Right. I can't speak English properly, so don't speak French for me. Okay. And yes, Night Wristwatch.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So, shall we maybe start with a quick wristwatch check? So, Ian, with you being the guest of honor, if you can show us what's on your wrist tonight, please.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Let me see. Oh, I'm in the way.
That's it.
There we go. We nearly got it.
There we
go.
You had it there. Yes. You had it there. Yeah.
Had it there.
Very nice.
Is that Holton? Is that Holton?
Yeah, that's a Holton.
Elliot Brown Holton.
Nice. Yeah, it's
very
nice.
Yeah.
We should be discussing that a bit later, I'm sure. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, definitely a favourite. Definitely a favourite at the moment.
Very nice.
Definitely mine as well.
So,
do we do your wrist as well?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, go on. Let's do Palm. What are you wearing, Palm? Let's mix it up.
Ooh,
what you got on tonight?
I am wearing my bronze Inoxen Fly.
Oh
yeah,
nice.
Lovely.
Excellent.
I really like this one.
Good colour.
Has it patinated yet? Has it started patinating yet?
It has actually. Let me see. Hang on. Let me see.
Yeah.
If can... It started a little bit,
good.
just very slightly. You probably might not be able to.
Okay.
No, you're not exactly by the sea somewhere in London, but that's not bad if it's patinating, you know. Oh, yeah, it's a bit.
Pollution. It's a pollution. Yeah, you can see it there, can't you?
A little bit.
Started going a bit. It has. It's started going a bit. Excellent.
It's all that pollution.
Yes.
And you, John, what you got on?
Oh, it's no surprises for me, is it?
FXD.
I still got on Tudor Pelagos FXD 2021. Yes, my favourite watch. That's not going anywhere as normal. Yes, love it.
Very nice.
Very handsome.
Yes. That leaves Andy.
Yeah, so I've got the classic 70s Cartier Tank. I love this watch.
Where's the Tudor, Andy? Where's the
I've
Tudor?
still got the Tudor. It's in the watch roll, safe and sound.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Okay.
For now.
Andy has a habit of buying a watch and then kicking it to the curb within a couple of months after being his favourite.
Yeah.
It's his favourite watch. He loves it, and then he just falls in love with it and sells it. Out of love with it and sells it very quickly.
He loves it.
Not the Cartier, though. Not the Cartier. But
not the Cartier.
You're definitely rocking it.
There's not even any talk of getting rid of it, is it? Sorry, Ian, what you're saying?
No.
Andy's definitely rocking that.
Yeah, I love this.
Yeah, starting it out.
Can't go wrong. Absolutely.
Excellent.
Let's get the show on the road.
Let's get the show on the road. So, if I may begin, please, if possible, Ian, and if you could just tell ourselves and the viewers your watch journey and how you became where you are today as one half of Elliot Brown Watches, please.
Wow, how far back would you like to go? Would you like to go right to the beginning, or
we can do as long as it's got like a why not? Yes, how you got into watches?
Why not?
Yes,
Okay.
why not? Excellent.
So Alex Brown and I met at a company called Animal, where I was one of the co-founders, and that was built on an invention which was a Velcro watch strap, and that was in the late 80s. And we started this business in the sort of extreme sports arena, and it became quite a thing. We sold quite a few million Velcro watch straps, and in the mid-90s, it was a very natural extension for us to launch a range of watches, and that was a really exciting ride. We tripled our turnover the week we launched those watches, which was amazing. Anyway, the business was sold in sort of 2000. I left the business. Alex stayed on. He joined Animal as a really experienced horologist. He turned down a job at Cartier to come and work in Dorset at Animal. So he's a really highly qualified horologist. We've both got an engineering background. When I came out of the business, I did something else for about 10 years, but we stayed good mates, and we'd meet up once in a while. It might be for me to go and get some of my old watches serviced with Alex, or it might just be to meet up for a beer. And one night we just had this idea, imagine what we could do with sort of 20 odd years of unique knowledge from each of us. Me having developed all the watches and with Alex at Animal. And we imagine what we could do with a blank sheet of paper and all that unique knowledge, and no restrictions on price or anything else. We just sort of imagined the watches that we'd love to build that could cope with the sort of lifestyle that we lead, which is quite heavy going on watches. So there's a lot of salt water, sand, mud, rocks and snow, things like downhill mountain biking, all the water sports, from surfing and paddleboarding to wing foiling and that sort of stuff. They're all things that watches don't like. So we created an initial collection that was quite selfishly designed around our pastimes and able to cope with our lifestyle, which we launched in 2013 at the very first Watch Pro show in Covent Garden. And we felt quite how can I put it? Unconfident, I suppose. Turning up to London, a couple of country boys. How would it go? We ended up winning an award. Instantly got the attention of quite a few retailers, and we hit the ground running pretty hard with Elliot Brown. And the USPs that we started with are still very much our USPs today. So everything we make has a shock protection system for its movement. It has a bolt down case back with oversized seals that improve as the watch goes deeper underwater. We have triple seals on the crowns. We have toughened crystals. Everything's stainless steel, solid, unbreakable strap bars, all the kind of stuff that gives us the sort of reputation we built over the last 10 years for being pretty much the most rugged watches out there. But also, they have to look the part, don't they? So we also design things that we want to, quite selfishly, that we enjoy wearing ourselves. We're both very much into the design element of what we do. With an engineering background, we're perhaps fastidious is an understatement. We're pretty obsessive about how we go about making things, and before we'll turn anything off, it really has to go through the mill. But interestingly, over the entire 10-year period, we've never disagreed on a watch design. We just instantly both know when something has the right balance and feel. It's quite an instantaneous moment when you get there, when you're designing something on screen and you go, oh yeah, that's definitely the one. And we generally never change it once we've got to that.
Wow, that's brilliant. It's very rare, right, when you're that in tune. So you're already off to a very good start with, having such a good business partner. A question from my side is, I remember at the event, you was challenging John to, watch conkers, just in how confident you were in the, the technology and the durability of your pieces. So I'm just curious, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but recently you've been blowing up some watches. So could you explain a little bit behind that story? What kind of extreme testing that was for?
I don't want to jump the gun too much, because we haven't released any of the footage yet. But it's one of those bizarre things. We're like little, we're kind of like little kids. You create something, and we put our watches through some pretty extreme tests. We can talk about some of the other ones later, perhaps. But the explosive ones was, we've always wanted to see, actually, is one of our watches bomb-proof? you know, we all have this kind of expression, don't we? Yeah, it's bomb-proof. Well, is it? Is it really? Is it really bomb-proof? And we're very keen on being truthful with all of the testing and things that we do, and we're very open and upfront about that. And so we've had many contacts in the military over the years who've said to us, "Oh yeah, we can blow that up for you." But when it comes to filming it and publishing that content, then questions might get asked as to, well, who paid for that? Where was it? Was it permitted? And so on. And of course, if it's something to do with the military, you just can't publish it. Anyway, we through a videographer friend of ours, he introduced us to a company who've got a demolition. They're basically a demolitions company, and they make specialist demolitions for things like bomb disposal. They can put a superheated copper slug, which will go through many inches of steel in one hit. So, for example, if they need to defuse a warhead or, you know, a missile or something that's landed, rather than blowing the whole thing up as it was intended to blow up, they can use this stuff to kind of blow into the side of it and have a really controlled, low impact explosion. Anyway, they produce all this specialist stuff, and we agreed to go and spend a day with their experts in their quarry and put some explosive charges under some of our watches. And I think it's fair to say that we amazed the staff at that facility who are used to blowing things up. They were whooping each time we found the watch after blowing it sky high in amongst the rocks and the bits of iron bar that it was fastened to, still ticking. One watch survived 3 explosions, which is when you're in the quarry and you're in a soundproof building and you can feel the shockwave go right through your body and it gives you an instant headache, you know how powerful the explosion was. And then you walk up and there's a 6-foot crater and your watch is gone, and so are the 2 breeze blocks it was sat on. You know that you've given it a pretty good test. So
and it's still working.
If anybody's ever in Poole and wants to come into the office, we've got some of those watches that have been through those tests in a cabinet, along with lots of others that have got some pretty cool stories to tell. So it's just it's nice to be able to do that sort of stuff, because it's boyish fun, right? You know, I don't think we've ever hit the button on a explosive charge, but I can tell you it's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I can't say I've done that.
I'd love to, but never have yet.
But that took things to a whole new level, and yeah, we had a really good day. We're very grateful to the folks who run the demolitions company for letting us play in their playground for a day. We've got some cracking footage that we'll be putting out in the not too distant.
Brilliant. Okay, so watch this space, and is this for a new watch, or we obviously you can't say if it is or not, or is it for a current watch?
Testing existing watches. Yeah, we just took a bunch of it. We never test things that have been specially built for the test. We just take standard. We always just take a standard watch out of the box and test it. We don't do anything special to it. We're not, we don't like making things up. We just want to be 100% truthful.
Yeah,
about
brilliant.
What we put out.
Okay.
Wow.
So before I ask my question, you should be careful inviting us. Obviously, we may even come and see you, and might want to press that button on the explosive as well if you let us. So we'll speak
on John's FXT.
We'll speak on John's FXT.
The watch. I've seen you tying a piece of string to one of your watches. I'll be careful because you're going to play watch colleges.
One of the tests we do is we take a percentage of the watches from a batch and we smash them with a 3 kilogram mallet. So it's a bit like a croquet mallet, and it's on a sort of pendulum. So you'd lift one end up, and you put the watch on a little plinth on the ground, and you let the mallet go, and it swings and smashes the watch into a catch net. It's a bit like a golf ball coming off the front end of a golf club, and it applies about 5,000 G at the point of impact. And all of our watches have to withstand that.
Wow, that'd be worth coming to see that. Filming that. Yeah. Wow, that'd be good.
Yeah. Well,
Excellent.
watch this space, as we said.
Yes.
Yeah, that's just one of the tests we do. Every watch, incidentally, goes through 3 pressure tests during production. So the first 2 tests are just in air pressure, so an air pressure chamber, which is what the rest of the industry uses typically for a percentage of the watches that come out there. It's quite rare to test every one, but we do that. We do that to every watch twice, and then once we know it's roughly okay, then we pop it in water, and it goes into water at either 200 meters or 300 meters, depending on the model. So every single watch we sell has been in water at 200 meters at least.
Wow.
So going into my question again, seeing the watches, they're very impressive, very solid looking, very sturdy looking. So I have no doubts that is, that isn't the case. But when we were there, you mentioned Animal, and I think you mentioned it earlier today as well, and how you started that company up. Going from a watch company, from a successful surfing stroke fashion, you'd call it fashion at one point, wouldn't you? Animal company. Did you find it easier being in the business, or was it a completely different challenge and having to start from square one again to launch a watch business, get everything right, get all because again, marketing, you're at the watch shows now, you're getting focus, from us. You have collaborations with, you're saying potentially armed forces. You didn't really want to talk about that. So things like that. How did you find that journey from? Was it linked? Was it easier to have done that having been in the animal industry, or was it a completely different animal? Pardon the pun.
Very, very different. I would say, honestly, we're still learning about the watch industry. We're like school kids. Every day is a school day, right? We're learning something every single day about the watch industry because it's not where we've come from. I think it's probably why we're seen as a little bit different. We sort of plow our own furrow a little bit. But at the same time, we don't want to alienate consumers and retailers, do we? We need to be attractive. So we definitely don't follow trends. So has the journey been difficult? No, I would say it's been very natural because we're just doing what we love. You can go about business 2 ways, can't you? You can create something that's got its own kind of authenticity and story, I suppose. And if you then talk about that in the right way, people will come.
Yeah.
Or you can create something and then just promote the hell out of it and hope people will come. And we're very much the former of those two. So we're big believers in creating something that's kind of got its own authenticity, its own story, its own place in the world. And that's proven actually with our original, some of our very first models that we launched 10 years ago are still, they're still really strong sellers. They're still in the ranges. And that was very much an ambition at the outset, was to have evergreen models that, maybe you make tiny little tweaks to them over time, but essentially they stay as staples because if they're popular on day one, they'll always be popular. And then you can play with color stories and things like that, which we have an awful lot of fun with. But no, the transition was very natural. We had some ambitions. We wanted to work with the military. We wanted to do some work for various charities. When we had Animal, we were one of the biggest supporters of an environmental group called Surfers Against Sewage. And they're still going very strongly and do a great job at cleaning up, the waterways, coastal waterways and inland waterways. And our first charity project was with Mountain Rescue, and that felt very natural. They need it's a demanding audience. They're a blue light rescue service, essentially volunteer run, and they need best of breed equipment. And so we had a chat with them and agreed that we would create a watch that gave a percentage of its profit back to the organization. And that kind of set us off in the same way that we'd been working with Animal and Surfers Against Sewage. And it's a really nice sort of virtuous way of running the business, where you're associating yourselves with an organization that's naturally demanding. And I guess there's a bit of a rub off for us in that, if we're good enough to supply that audience, then we must be okay. in terms of our product quality. But then also you've got the lovely charitable element where we're supporting people that will, give up their Christmas dinner or birthday dinner and go out in horrific conditions to go and rescue somebody. And we feel very, very strongly about helping groups like that. It's also how we came to be working with the RNLI in Poole. So they're the Royal National Lifeboat Institution. We've got a similar deal going with them where we produce a watch and 10% of its retail value goes back to the RNLI.
Nice.
And you mentioned military. We don't really talk about many of the military projects that we do. We choose to stay fairly well in the dark in terms of publicity. Some of the groups we work with, it just wouldn't be very cool to talk about who they are and what they do. But every single one of the military projects we've ever made works in the same way as the RNLI and the mountain rescue projects, in that we give 10% of its value back to various military charities. And we were recognised for that. Actually, we don't just do the donations to charity. We do all sorts of other things as well. We're 50% of our workforce is either veteran or military partners. And we get involved with various charities on a sort of personal basis as well. And this year we had one of our proudest moments. Actually, we were awarded the Armed Forces Covenant Gold Award, which I think we're the only company to have ever been awarded it. And it's an award that requires ministerial approval. And it was one of those funny things. We got awarded the bronze, having met some people that run the awards on a military camp, and didn't actually think very much of it. Well, it's like a chip shop award kind of thing. But we put the bronze award on our email signature, and let the world know that we'd achieved that. And then they approached us and said, "Well, do you want to go for silver?" And of course, there's now there's silver, so there's gold as well, right? So we were very fortunate to be awarded the silver award a couple of years ago, and earlier this year they said, "Do you want to go for the gold award?" And we were sure we weren't, we just felt no way could we achieve that. But it turns out that what's normal for us isn't normal for the rest of the world, and we do actually do quite a lot for the military community. So we're down in Dartmouth on Thursday night this week to be awarded our gold award, which is probably one of our proudest moments as in our last 10 years. Actually, it's a really nice thing to have achieved, because it's not necessarily about making watches. It's about who we are and how we behave to the wider community.
Yeah, and was that always your intention? I mean, again, part of the question was, how did you get involved in so many organizations and so many good causes? Was that always part of what you wanted to do when you started out, or did it just organically grow into that?
Yeah, it's very much grown into that, and we found ourselves very grateful to the military community as well, because particularly during lockdown, we were working on a great number of special projects with groups in that community. And that really supported us, and we felt very grateful to support them back. So it was a very virtuous way of helping us during those leaner years when retail was much harder.
Okay, thank you. That's incredible.
I'm not going to mention the military thing because you don't want to, but I'm quite interested is why you don't play on that to sell watches. Because, for instance, CWC, their black SBS watch, they load it up and they sell watches. I mean, I bought that because of where it goes, i.e. the SBS. I'm just wondering, whatever connection you have with your watches, why you don't use it to advertise to sell watches, because you get nerds like me who would buy them for that, for that reason. I do. I'm into that kind of shit. I know the people who do that, they like to wear the same thing that currently is being issued, shall we say. That's a big thing.
So we do make watches for those types of groups. We have a watch that we've spoken about privately that's issued to one such organization you may or may not have mentioned. And
yes, Okay.
if you are around those people and that community, on those communities, and you get to know how they operate, then you have a deep respect for them and their families. And the last thing we want to do is to shout about something that could make one of those people identifiable.
Okay.
If they were in a tricky situation. So it's just a respectful security thought,
Yeah.
rather than us just sort of, caning the arse out of everything we've done and telling the world about it. We do talk about some of the projects. We've done one for Op Herrick recently, which was everything to do with what went on in Afghanistan. And yes, we could say more about what we do, but we choose not to because it just doesn't feel very cool.
That's really good, because they said the other one I mentioned, they load it up and it's they make sure they let people know in issued blah blah blah, and that's so it's a good way to go. That the completely opposite, like if you know, you know what I mean, sort of thing.
It's very much like that, and we like to respect the people in the communities that have been very very good to us. We're just very respectful of how we go about that. And that's one of the reasons we give back so much, because we're very grateful, but also but so are they, because we like to. So the watches that we produce for the military community, we go to some lengths to tell stories that are hidden in plain sight. So we might make, I don't know, an example that's easy to talk about is the Land Rover, one of our Land Rover collaboration watches, where the number 19 and the number 48 on the minute track, right on the outside of the dial, that are tiny little markers, are coloured orange instead of white for 1948, which is when the first Land Rover was created.
Very clever.
If you can imagine taking that sort of thing, and taking a military story, you could be down the pub with your special edition Elliot Brown military watch, or it's not all military groups, we do other groups as well, and you could be sat next to somebody at the bar and they'd take a look at your watch and they'd be none the wiser. They wouldn't know it was a project watch. They'd just think, oh, it's a nice watch. But hidden within it are all these these cracking stories, and I think it's become a speciality of ours, where you can put something in the market for a pretty reasonable price, but it's got this they would call it alley kind of ethos, where you're tying a group together because of the story that's hidden in the watch they're all wearing. Everybody in that group knows about the story, but the wider world is none the wiser. And as you said, if you know, you know.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. That's a brilliant answer.
It's a great answer. Yeah.
That's a proper answer. Thank you, Ian. Yeah, definitely.
Pleasure.
Brilliant. So we did select a few of our favourite pieces, but also we'd love to see some of your favourites. So maybe I think now if we could look through some of the collection.
Yeah, of course. I've got several with me. I haven't got the whole box tonight.
Yeah, no worries. No.
No, several's good.
Yeah, several's fine.
Should we start with Canford?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is. Can you see that? Okay.
That's perfect. There, that's absolutely perfect.
Yep.
You had it there.
Looks good.
There
you go.
Perfect.
That's it. That's the sweet spot.
Yeah, that's spot on. Yeah.
So this is one of the first two watches we designed. We designed the Canford and the Blocksworth. That was our first launch collections. This is called our 202004. Just for those that want a little bit of inside knowledge, 202 originally came from the pool dialing code 01202.
Wow. Well, never guessed that. I thought some slight.
The 004 is the model number within the Canford collection, and then it might have a final 3-digit code, which could be R for rubber. Imaginatively, it could be L for leather, or it could be B for bracelet, or N for webbing. Don't ask me why N. Anyway, so the Canford is it's a kind of a classic outdoor adventure watch. This one is finished with a gunmetal PVD. The PVD coating We take it to 0.8 microns, which is much, much thicker than the industry norm. It's got the PVD coating's got a hardness rating of about 1200 Vickers, which is much harder than the stainless steel it's wrapping up. And we go a bit heavier on the coating because it just means it'll never ever chip or wear off. It just lasts and lasts and lasts. We've never ever in our 10 years of running Elliot Brown had a watch come back for any kind of coating issues. Not ever. So you've got this lovely tough outer coating. It's got a bead blasted matte or a vapor blasted matte finish. It's got a couple of crowns, one at 2 o'clock, one at 4 o'clock. The top crown turns an inner rotating bezel. So it's a simple timing bezel. This one isn't a diving bezel. It turns both ways. So if you wanted to, I don't know, time, how long a pizza is going to be in the oven, you could advance it so that your minute hand's going to come and reach it when your pizza needs to come out of the oven, or something as simple as turning the triangle to the minute hand when you park your car in a car park and knowing how long it's been there for. It's not all about technical function. It's just about useful function. So all of the Camfords have that nice internal bezel. It's got a lovely silky damped action that we damp with silicone O-rings and plenty of grease. So it's got a lovely feel to it. It's a bit like a fidget toy. The loom that we use in every watch is all high-grade super luminova. I've got a torch here somewhere. Let's see if I can get this working. So if I show you how, is that too bright?
No, that's perfect right now.
Cool. That's
there you
perfect,
go.
Yeah.
So they'll all glow for about 8 hours. They need a good charge in daylight. If you've had your watch under the cuff of a shirt all day, it's not going to have been taking in the light that it needs to glow at night. It's a bit like a solar panel. So you need to show it, much like any watch with super luminova. You need to show it some daylight, and it's gonna do its job. This particular model has got a dial that's got very, very fine record grooves on it. I don't know if you can see that. Does that come across?
Yeah, just about. No, yeah.
So
you can
reason for that is if you can imagine a circular ploughed field or a record, it's increasing the surface area of the dial, which gives it just absorbs more light and makes the colour much richer. It's just a really nice to have. One of the things that we do also is we always colour the little eye-ring that is the seal around the edge of the crystal is always coloured to match the dial. A lot of companies don't do that. They'll just use white or clear eye-rings, whereas we actually colour them so that you don't see that the edge of the crystal where it meets the case. If you can see it, it's just invisible.
Just blends in. Yeah.
It's just one of those little details that we like to do because we can. Wow. The lower crown on this model has got triple seals on it, so even when it's in the out adjust position, that can still pass our test at 200 meters in water.
Holy brown out! Wow, excellent.
We were, I wouldn't say we were inundated, but every sort of late summer, we'd have calls from people saying, "Look, I've been on holiday, my watch is leaked." And we're like, "Okay, can you send it us and we'll take a look at it?" And you could push the crown in, put it in the pressure tester. Hey presto, it was fine. And we knew that they hadn't screwed their crown down. Maybe they changed the time on the plane, jumped in the pool at the other end as you do, and the watch is full of water. And it's just the most horrible conversation because your watch is now absolutely wrecked. And the only thing you can do with that is replace the entire insides of somebody's watch. And it was a conversation we never wanted to have again. So we engineered that out. So on this crown stem, there are 3 separate seals between the outer edge and the inner edge of the casing, and they just always work. So whether the crown's in or out, it doesn't matter. The customer can never get it wrong.
That is superb engineering, that, isn't it? That's brilliant. Yeah.
It was quite something. There's not a lot of metal to get those 3 seals in. And on some of our other models where the crowns screw down and are recessed into the case, there's even less metal. So that was even more of a challenge.
Wow.
But yeah, it's a cool feature that we've they never go wrong.
That was nice. That was my choice. That one, a lovely watch. I like the dial, like you say, the vinyl grooves in there. So
another thing that we
on
do,
top
I
of
don't
everything else.
see on the side of the case here. Can you just see there's a hole for the strap bar on that side?
Yeah, you got
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
On that side, there isn't one.
no.
Okay.
Okay.
So you have this little tool. If I can just this tool just locks in. It's got a little petal. It's like 5 little lobes on the end of it,
Okay.
Right.
and you get one of those with every watch, and that just locks in. And I can unscrew that. I can literally do that while I'm talking to you. Just unscrew that bar, pull that out, and that's my strap changed.
As easy as
It's
that.
like it's like your fixed
Really,
lugs
really
idea,
simple,
but fixed lugs idea, but you can actually change the strap.
You can
Yeah,
actually
that's pretty
change
good.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's just
Tudor, take
taking
notes.
the sort of the standard spring bar, which is a bit like a toilet roll holder, and going, no, that's not good enough. That's not strong enough for this purpose. And making it, just making it really rugged and reliable. And you can do this to our straps. Look. I'm trying to show you how strong they are. I'm sure you can imagine.
Yeah,
they
looks pretty resistant there.
Yeah, they're pretty good. This one's fitted with our rubber strap. It took us about a year to design this. We're pretty good at designing watches, but designing three-dimensional objects like rubber straps is another game altogether. So this one has really nice, neat fitted ends that butt up to the case. Mm-hmm. It has a nylon insert inside the part that the strap bar goes through for strength. And then it tapers all the way down to the end where you've got this little non-return tip. The idea behind that is that when that tip goes through the retainers,
Doesn't come back.
They don't float around. They just stay put. So it's just one of those really easy things that we could design in. The buckle has got little grippy sides. You can actually file your nails on those if you want to, but it's just really easy to get hold of. You've got just get the camera. In these little sections here and here, you've got stainless steel tubes, and then you've got a screw bar that goes through. If I can get that in the light, can you see that? Anyway, there's a solid screw that goes through that holds the buckle on. It's got a wide pin to give it extra strength and matching holes. And the pin sits at 40. The holes are cut at 45 degrees through the strap. So when it's all buckled up, and you give it a pull, the buckle is just being pulled down or the pin is just being pulled down on the buckle. So it's super, super strong. It's made of a material called EPDM, which is flexible down to -50 and +50. So it's very, 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 very hard wearing. And on the inside, we could have just put some little sort of classic sort of zigzag lines, but instead we chose the breather lines to be contour lines from a local hill above Kimmeridge Bay, which is one of our favourite surfing spots. This particular hill is called Tyneham Cap, and it's got particularly good contours. So we're fun to use those as a little local story on the inside of our rubber straps. So this particular strap has those contours on, and then on the outside, it looks a bit shiny in this light, but I promise you they're not shiny. They're quite matte, and we just got a very subtle Elliot brown embossed into the strap. So from a distance, you could mistake it for a leather strap, but obviously it's got the practicality of rubber.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
so
looking at the actual website on this, you wouldn't know a lot of the stuff you've just went through because it looks like a nice styled watch with a PVD coating, but there's so much going on there. It just goes to show you really do have to see a watch and handle a watch or be shown what the plus points are of it. Because again, like I was saying, if just looking at the catalogue on your website, half that stuff I would not have picked up on. I just like the look of it. I thought it looks really nice.
Do you know, one of the hard things for us is that because we have gone to so much, to so many lengths to change the way our watches are engineered and constructed, there's actually too much to say. it's really difficult. This sort of format's great because we can talk about all this stuff. But if you're reading a product description, you generally just want to see the highlights, don't you? So that's what we tend to give our audience, and it is very, very hard to talk about everything we do. If you dive deeper into our site, you'll see blogs about how we designed that rubber strap and why we use a dome crystal on this, why we've got triple seals, why we have bolt down case backs that are sort of like a super compressor style case back. Part of that, while I'm on that, is that your logo is always straight. If you're screwing a case back down, in our minds, when you screw it down, you're reliant on the watchmaker's skill to stop screwing it when it reaches the right tension. You've got this tiny little thin O-ring, and you don't actually know if you've broken that O-ring or not when you're screwing it down. Only if you pressure test it do you know it's intact. So we chose a system where we have a series of bolts, the little hex bolts. They sit outside of the seal, so just inside the ring of bolts is the primary seal, and that means that as the watch descends in water, the water will press the case back down onto the case. It effectively loosens the bolts, which are allowed to sort of come free. But it means that the case back's pushing down on the seal even harder and harder and harder. And your logo is always, which if you're OCD like us, is a great thing.
That's all of us.
One of our viewers, Ian, just said people buy with their eyes, so this extra information could easily seal a deal on a purchase. If
definitely,
again,
100%.
Channels like this, watch us, and then you'll find out all about these watches. So.
Exactly.
There you go.
Okay, Ian, if I could ask you, I know that's not one of the military watches or such, but it's got the same bolt system that holds the strap in. Now, I know that some people ask for fixed lugs on watches. So, do I take it that system that you've got is as good and it is tested as well as a fixed lug watch? The one with the bolt going through.
If you can break one of our strap bars when it's in the watch. Yeah.
So obviously,
it is as strong as a fixed lug. Absolutely,
it's a strong fixed lug. I know that the specification.
It's a solid chunk of stainless steel. You could argue a fixed lug's thicker, right? But what sort of strap goes through it? Does it only take a webbing strap, for example, that threads through? Whereas this system is interchangeable. So all of our straps, whether it's webbing, rubber, leather, bracelet, they all fit this system perfectly.
Of course you do, but the some people don't bother about that. They just want fixed lugs for security and one single pass-through strap that goes through. That's specification.
Sure.
I'm just wondering whether that bolt through satisfies the people as much as they would if it was a proper fixed lug one. And obviously it does.
We've never seen a strap bar break. So
cool.
I think the other thing as well is that we used to do when we first launched actually this model. It also comes on a traditional webbing strap, so it's not our patented webbing strap. It's just a sort of we just call it a NATO style webbing strap, like a G10 strap. And typically that would have a double layer under the watch for security, so the sort of Zulu strap type arrangement.
Yes.
And that was always there in case one of the watch pins broke. As a means of extra security. We deleted that on the strap that we fit to this watch pretty quickly, because all it does is add bulk to the depth of the watch on your wrist.
It stands up on your
There's
wrist.
No need for that extra loop on this because the strap bars are so strong. You just don't need that.
Excellent, brilliant.
Incredible. Yeah, like not a question from my side, just a comment really, but just when you was going through that one piece for the price point of that watch and the amount of thought what's gone into each aspect of the design is absolutely mind blowing. Like
incredible.
I can definitely see your coming from an engineering perspective, from the ground up, and so much value for money. That's just I think people really need to know that level of depth from the watch to just it takes the appreciation behind that piece to a whole different level. So it's
The
just
detailing is
fascinating.
unbelievable.
There's
Yeah,
so
the
much more
detail is-
that's going on there apart from.
Would you like to see
looking
what
like
a bit of what's
three-handle
inside?
watch?
Would you like to see a bit of
Sorry.
what's inside here, the shock absorption system? Would that help?
Yes,
That'd be-
please. Yes.
that'd be
Yeah, let's
amazing,
see
yeah.
that. I'd love to.
As
Yeah,
long as
please.
there's no explosives needed. But
Yeah,
Yeah,
long as
that's all
long as you
right,
don't.
I've got a little case on the floor. I'm just going to duck off screen for a second.
Sure, yeah, no worries. Explosion, yeah.
Give the little handle down.
Okay, guys, just I've lost Ian for a second. Just check out Elliot Brown watches when the stream's finished. Go and have a look at what they've got, and you'll be amazed. Seriously.
Yeah, I've dropped the
Have a look.
website in
Yeah.
the chat as well. So
Yeah, we'll drop it a
drop it
couple more
again.
times when we're at it
let's
in
drop
the
it
chat when
again.
it's finished.
There
But
we go.
yeah, amazing.
So typically, here's a Canford case, and here's a typical movement with the date wheel removed, and normally the movement would sit inside using a plastic movement mount, something like that. This one's broken. So the movement would go into the mount, and the mount would sit in the case.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's what the majority of the industry uses, and that's what will hold your, that's what will keep your movement in there. However, if this is going to withstand a really big hit, then the shock is going to transfer through the steel, which is relatively brittle, through the plastic, which is also brittle, and straight into the movement. Whether it's an automatic or a quartz movement, it can create, that shock can damage the components of the movement. So we house our movement in a lump of solid stainless steel. You've got a little cutout there for the crown stem and a little hole to be able to pick it out of the watch case. And excuse me, if you ever have the chance to come to our office, you'll see how this if I press that into the case, you'll just see it very gently disappear into the case. And once that's inside, that whole thing is now floating. So on the inner edge of the case, in here, you just see in there, there's a little sort of grey coloured O-ring.
Yeah.
So that is one of the elastomers that we put into the case. There's another one that sits on the inside of the case back.
Right. Okay.
So there's a black one on the outside of the case back, which is the seal, and there's another one that sits in the track on the inside here. And the combination of all of those O-rings create a floating mechanism for that heavy lump of stainless steel that's holding the movement to sit in. So now, once this is in situ, because the movement holder is heavy, if I whack that hard, this heavy component in the middle has inertia. If you can imagine pushing a beach ball or pushing a same size ball made of concrete, the concrete ball is difficult to move. It's difficult to start moving. It's got inertia, whereas the lightweight beach ball just goes straight away. So this is like the heavy concrete ball. When I whack the watch, the heavy bit doesn't want to start moving. It wants to stay still because it has inertia, and it squashes against the elastomers.
Wow.
So the whole thing inside is floating, and every single one of our watches has that in.
Wow.
Would you say that's partly responsible for surviving the explosion? Then that bit of the engineering
That's a huge component in that. Yeah,
that's huge. That's a real big. Yeah, that's a major thing. Excellent.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good. Thank you. Ooh, so
Brilliant. Yeah.
can we look at the next model, please? You've got with you, please.
What was that? Was that the Holton you'd like to look at? Yeah. Let's look
Oh
at
yes,
that.
please. Yes, absolutely.
Give it a quick clean. So this is the Holton Professional. It was designed from the ground up for military use. Before the conversation we had with the military unit that it was originally intended for, they had a nickname for their watches that they'd been issued with, which was fish food.
Okay.
So you can imagine the environment in which they're working. And we were asked, essentially, we made a watch for the charity that sits alongside this particular unit. And we made a lot of money we continue to support that charity and do much work for them. And as a result of the watch we made for the charity and its members, a number of the operators that are in this unit also bought the charity watch and wore it for work on operations and said, "Hey, this is better than the stuff you've been issuing us with. Can we go and have a chat with the guys at Elliot Brown and see if they could design us a new dive watch?" So that's how this came about. It was literally a spark of imagination before that conversation. So we went into all the details of what was needed. One of the things was a very, very grippy bezel that can be turned with the palm of a gloved hand, so you can put the palm of your hand on it and turn it. Another thing was to have a crown that was very much indestructible. So the crown on this one is deeply reset into the case. It's at 4 o'clock rather than 3 o'clock as we do on everything, because it just takes it out of harm's way.
Oh, it is. I thought some were at 3 o'clock. They are all at 4 o'clock. Right, got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was the first watch we developed the strap bar system that I showed you earlier with the solid strap bars, because we needed to have it so that it could be changed on in the field. Essentially, if someone needed to put an extra on webbing strap or a different type of strap, it was very easy to change whilst out in the field. And then again with the loom, it had to be bright enough to be very, very instantly visible in poor light conditions, but also not too bright. So you became a target if you're wearing night vision goggles, for example. So tritium discharge tubes were a definite no-no for this. It was deemed that they would be far too bright. So it's kind of one of those watches that it just does everything it needs to do and nothing else. But we gave it we love what we do, right? We're absolutely passionate about it. So there's no way we're going to put a watch on a group's wrist and make it look average. So we took our DNA of our existing Canford. If I show you the Canford next to it, there's definite. You've got the 12, 3, 6, and 9 going on. They're not the same by any means, but there's DNA, definitely around DNA to it. And then we married that with classic sort of military styling, and came up with our own unique model called Holton. And it's currently, I think it's our most successful model actually to date. Is that one
quartz or mechanical? That one in your hand.
This one's quartz, and we do exactly the same. So I bought an auto along to show you how Holton can look. It looks a lot more or a lot less military when you put it in this lovely sort of technical matte vapor blasted case. They're both steel. One's auto, one's quartz. We do the gunmetal in both quartz and automatic. And then we've recently got a bronze one, so I'm wearing.
The reason I asked is because the one I saw at the show, the quartz one, had the broad arrow at 6 o'clock, and I couldn't see that one on that quartz one in your hand, the black one. Well, I'm missing it. Can I not spot it? Is it just? Is it?
There it is.
Oh, it is. Oh, it is there. I couldn't see it. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, I couldn't see it. Very subtle again. You can hardly see that. That's brilliant. Yeah, that's the one. I thought so. Yeah, we're good. That's my fave. That's the one I want.
I was talking about proud moments earlier, and delivering the first batch of watches that were going to be issued to the military community as a piece of equipment from the stores for that group was a very, very proud moment in our history. It was something I'll never forget.
Can you just shine the loom on again? Because I remember you showed me the loom on it when I got to the show. That was it. We discussed that watch first of all. I remember I tapped you on it, and it was that's a pretty good loom. That it's
nice. Yeah,
I'm not sure there's any loom brighter than that.
No. The FXD is just as bright, I think.
Is it?
Seriously? Oh, yeah.
Well, of course it is. Yeah.
But yeah,
John's at least.
Put it this way, we never have any complaints.
Yeah.
The FXD is pretty. Yeah, I've got bright light here, so it won't show. But the FXD is light pretty bright, actually. I like it.
We do various colours.
Light on it.
this one looks pretty white during the day and glows green. We also do white that glows blue. We do some watches with bicolored loom. We've got some grey loom that glows. Interestingly, with loom, if you add a pigment to the color, it's a bit like looking through a stained glass window, where the darker the glass color, the less light it shows through. The darker you go with loom color, typically you're decreasing the performance of the loom, because you're putting pigment in which is stopping the light fluorescing and preventing it absorbing so much light during the day. So generally, the darker color the loom that you see on a watch, the poorer its performance. So we tend to mainly stick to the sort of C3, which is the brightest. And then we use the high grade superluminova. That's all we use. We don't have anything else.
Excellent.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, you military buffs like me, check that one out, guys. Tell you, I might add one to my list at some point.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll just show you the case back on the Holton as well. So we sort of deep. Can you see that?
Yeah, see that they're just there. That's good. Yeah.
We stamp them very deeply, and what it means is that the outer ring is what really touches your wrist, and the inner surface is only very lightly touching your wrist, where you'll see our shield and that horizontal plaque which we can engrave, and it just adds a layer of comfort.
Yeah. I mean, I tried it on. I tried it on. It was very comfy, and I did. Yeah, absolutely. It was really comfy.
Something that's quite interesting is as well is we're average size people, and we very selfishly just make watches that fit our wrists. So we've got very average 17.5 to 18 centimeter wrists. You'd be amazed how many people come to the office and say, "I've got really tiny wrists," and I go, "No, you haven't. They're just the same size as ours. Look." But yeah, so every one of our watches, it doesn't matter whether it's a 40mm watch, a 44mm watch, a smaller watch, they're all designed to fit our wrists. They're just designed to fit normal humans' wrists. They're not designed to look massive or tiny. They're just designed to perform and look nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So you mentioned your proudest moment. What's your proudest moment at Elliot Brown, or do you have others?
Well, it's given us an indelible history, hasn't it? It's given us this kind of mythical status, I suppose, that when we started out, we definitely had an ambition to produce a watch for this group. And once you've ticked that box, it opened the doors to many other military projects and interest groups, because of the status of the group that this was made for. And that can never be erased from our history. So in that sense, we'd achieved that ambition that we set out when we first started the company, which was to produce an issued military watch for one of the tier 1 groups of the British military. And that's just it's a very difficult thing to achieve. Don't underestimate how much testing and how much you've got to put a watch through to pass muster for a group like that. They have to go through some pretty harsh stuff, and we went through some prototypes that weren't all perfect. On day one, we tweaked a few things to the design. Originally, we had a glass bezel. We thought it'd be really nice to put a glass bezel insert in, very quickly they got smashed to pieces. So we changed to a case hardened steel insert, which never goes wrong. It's hard. It's literally harder than nails. So there's nothing ever going to happen to that bezel.
Wow.
Okay. So this literally can be passed from one generation to another, and nothing will ever happen to it in 10 generations' time. Forget Patek Philippe then. Elliot Brown's the way.
Well, the other thing that we do is we make. You've seen the inside of our watches, so there's actually not many more components than a normal watch. We tend to have more dial feet on our dial. A lot of companies just use 2 dial feet, and we generally use 4. It just gives a more secure attachment to the dial because the whole thing's floating. It gives you that extra layer of security. But our watches are all component based. So if someone damages anything, it's we can recase a watch for £100. This watch could be recased for £100.
Oh wow. That's
so
good.
it's and our battery servicing's sort of 45 quid every 3 years, and every quartz movement we use is a Swiss Ronda movement. So it has the end of life indicator on the seconds hand, which will jump 4 seconds at a time as the indicator to tell you that in a few weeks' time you're going to need to change the battery. And it also means that the watch is never issued from stores when it's doing that.
Excellent. Is it an ETA movement for the mechanical one? What movements is it on the mechanical watches?
So we use NH35s on some of our watches, and we also use Miyota.
Oh, okay. Excellent. That's good. Excellent. Thank you.
They're just when we choose movements, we choose things that work rather than things that have the kind of snobbery value.
Yeah.
We'd much rather have something that was reliable and truthful to our stories and our ethos. When we first launched, every watch that we made had it had a mineral crystal in it rather than a sapphire crystal. And we did that because under shock loading, mineral's generally tougher, but it scratches a tiny bit easier. And the watch industry, we kind of got slated for it a little bit when we first started, because why would you buy a watch with a mineral crystal? Well, actually, it's the one that's fit for purpose. But as time's gone on, sapphire crystals developed, and now we've switched everything over to sapphire because it is actually tougher. These
Mineral's
days.
good because you get polywatch out, can't you? You get polywatch and take it out, can't you? Every mineral, can't you? Yeah. But yeah, sapphire's the way to go in it, obviously, especially with the issued stuff. Yeah.
And the thickness we go to is pretty. I don't know if you can see how thick that is.
Oh yeah,
wow,
one of our
pretty extreme. Yeah,
pretty thick. It takes takes a lot to smash that.
Wow,
take a beating. Wow.
The lenses in my glasses.
Yeah.
What was that? What was that thing? It was like, this could be your lucky day.
You need good eyesight to see through those. Yeah. So
that's
we have one more piece, don't we?
Can I tell you anything else? Has anybody got any questions about the Holton they'd like to ask?
I'm sure there's some maybe to pull up towards the end, but maybe we can do
towards the end. We just go to the third watch and then we'll take questions.
Yeah.
And we'll have to jump back to whichever watch they're interested in.
So this watch is us being allowed to go a little bit mad. We're very fortunate to be able to work with Land Rover, and it was actually one of our ambitions when we first started was to work with other organizations that sort of share our values. And we boldly thought that we make go anywhere, do anything watches, and Land Rover make go anywhere, do anything vehicles. So we approached them, and the timing was poor because they just launched their own range of watches. So we put everything on hold for a couple of years to let their own range find its place in the world. And then we re-established that conversation. And by that time, we'd made the Holton, which was obviously a really interesting story. So we got talking, and we made a couple of watches that are collaborations with Land Rover. There's one here. So these are both Holtons, but they obviously look completely different. There's nothing that, the only similarity is the case.
Yeah.
You can see there. So we were introduced by the team at Land Rover to their Classic Works department, who would take an old Range Rover, an old Jaguar, an old Land Rover, and restore it for its owner to any stage, either just a gentle restoration or a full restoration. And they were working on a project called the Trophy, and the Trophy vehicles, they made 25 Defenders. So this is the Defender that they've stopped making now. So they remade 25 of those, and they're around £200,000 per vehicle. And the owners get to come collect their vehicles and compete for 3 days in a mud rally, which is similar to the Camel Trophy when that used to run. So it's not just vehicle dynamics that have been tested. It's also teamwork and there's some mental puzzles and things like that to complete. So the owners came over recently and collected their vehicles and their watches, and we did a version 1. And each owner and co-driver was presented with a special version. So there's only 50 of those watches in existence. This is for Trophy 2. So Trophy 2 is a vehicle that was recently launched. It's a white remade Defender. So the works team take the Defenders, completely rebuild them into trophy spec vehicles, which are very, very highly spec'd. They've all got V8s. And they've all interestingly got a clock face inside, which looks a little bit like this one. And there's a really interesting story that goes with the Trophy 2 vehicle. So on the outside of the vehicle, there's what looks like grey and white camouflage. It's a white vehicle with this sort of grey and black and white camouflage going around the bottom of it. And the camouflage shapes are from the 27 countries that the Camel Trophy visited. And it's a really cool kind of get-up that they've made. And hidden within that pattern are tiny, tiny little images of Defenders. So we took some ideas from that and created a watch for the owners of that vehicle. And then on the back of that, we've created, so this is one of the competitors' watches. It says competitor on the dial. But we've produced a limited edition. So instead of competitor, it's exactly the same, but it'll say limited edition on the dial. Which was on pre-sale recently, and it's got some crazy party pieces. So it has this bicolored PVD coating, and that is dazzle camouflage from a warship. So it's got a nod to the Holton's heritage about it.
Oh, right, yeah.
And what's great about the guys at Land Rover is they just let us. We'll have meetings with them, and I won't say how much gets drunk, but it's fun. And we come up with ideas afterwards and during the meetings, and they've been so much fun to work with. They just let our imaginations run riot. So when we were creating this, we were like, God, how can we, that camouflage is really cool. What can we do? How can we mimic that? And so we came up with this idea where you've got, how's that going to work? You've got 3 colors of loom. Can you see
the dial? If you keep moving it slightly.
Let me dial the torch down a bit.
Yeah, you can see it now.
Yeah.
If you lift it a bit higher.
There you go. Right now.
That's it. Yeah.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah.
You've got green, blue.
So you've got white and turquoise, green and blue loom. Yeah. And those with a real eagle eye will notice that above the number 2 hour baton and above the trophy logo, the black trophy logo on the dial, there are tiny little Defenders, but they only glow or they only become visible when the loom is glowing.
Wow.
Yeah. So the reason I asked
you need to put some videos. Sorry, and you need to put some videos of this on your website with the page of
definitely.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah, because the reason I asked for this one was at the event, and it was off camera, and I thought, no, we need the viewers to know this story. And there was this one, and then there was the other one, what you made with a hidden map, right? The location of
the contours,
the races.
And the first one was
attention.
Unfortunately, I haven't got that one with me, but the story was that the vehicles for Trophy 1, the competition was at Eastnor Castle, and we know that Eastnor Castle is where Land Rovers are all tested, and the competition route goes up over the highest point in Eastnor. Has got an obelisk, and we thought, wouldn't it be cool to use the contours around the obelisk on the dial, but hide them and use UV reactive ink that we had specially made in sand glow yellow. So when you shine the UV torch on the dial, the contours reveal themselves.
Wow.
Guys, the battery on my computer's gone red. So let me can I very quickly grab an extension lead and plug it in?
Yes, no, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just one sec.
Of course you can. Go for it.
No
Absolutely. Wow,
Well, that was
this is
something else.
fantastic.
That's
This is
amazing.
great. I could
Yeah.
just keep on for a few hours of this, but
Well,
obviously,
Yeah, we could go
Yeah.
all night with this.
I've just got one quick question to ask him before we go to the comments to the questions. We've got a few comments
Yeah, definitely.
that need asking. I've just got one quick question, and I'd like to ask Ian, if possible, when he comes back.
Yeah. I just thought we had to bring that one up because it was just.
Yeah, of course we did.
I remember he was
Yeah,
showing me at the show, you know, the one with like all the mapping of the race, like the the geolocation. It was just wow, like again, attention to the detail was really
course.
impressive. Yeah, I've
Are you
never
done with
seen
your
loom like that.
Are you done with your questions, Andy? On this one.
Yep.
Okay, pal. I'll just ask him when he comes back or something.
Did Ian say he hasn't got the black one there? Is that the Mark One, the black
I
one?
think he said yes, the Mark One, the black one. He
Okay.
didn't have that with him. I don't
Oh,
think.
there was a question to
Yeah.
show the black. Okay,
Yes,
I think that
there
was
was.
Sure,
Forbin.
yeah. Unless it was the other one because he did have a black model and the
He did have
the white
a black
face.
one. I don't know if that was.
Maybe it
That
was
was the
referring-
Holton. I think he said it was the Holton, that black one he held up. I said that was he didn't
Okay.
say.
Yeah, but it was a Land Rover still.
Was it a Land Rover?
It was a
still,
Holton
was it?
Land Rover collab. Yeah.
Classic. Classic. Okay, I think
Yeah.
so we can ask to
Maybe
see
it
that
was.
one as well.
Yes, of course we can.
And also, I just want to know: are these? I know that you can't get them anymore, but is there a plan to make more?
Anymore?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good question. Yeah, because these would fly off the shelves once people
So-
know about them.
Anybody who's got any
Pretty cool,
more questions you want to put into the chat, sensible questions regarding the products you've seen or any product you've seen on the
Yeah.
website, please put it in there.
I think
and
we've
bring
got
it up.
quite a few. We can't ask all of them. Oh, we've lost.
No, sorry. Yeah,
No.
we'll have to take the early ones first. We've got a shed load of questions, but we're we're doing well
Is
so
Ian
far.
dropped
It's just
off?
like
Yeah, he'll join back. It's no issue.
he'll join back. That's
He's got
fine.
Maybe
we'll
his
bring him.
computer.
yeah, batteries.
his
Okay,
computer
let me
died
just
before he got
unstart.
to plug in.
I'll just pick some questions out, and then we'll do 4 or
Yeah.
5. Let's
4
say
or 5
questions.
But I'll
Yeah.
tell you what, and I've read this before, that they are very, very receptive to questions via email very quickly. So any questions, guys, that you don't get answered here, if you email them, they come back to you very, very quickly regarding their products. I've heard that on other forums, and people have said that. So just message them, and they'll answer you any technical questions you've got. And they are proper, as you can tell, proper watch enthusiasts. Absolutely.
Oh, absolute
Yeah, just
geeks,
proper-
right? From the
Yeah.
engineering level is just
Engineering
Yeah.
level
Insane.
is so it's plain to see there, right?
I
Yeah.
would like to go and see one blown up. That'd be pretty
it could happen.
incredible.
But
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my head around £395 for the Holton for that much
For that
depth of
amount of
detail.
engineering into it, with the detailing, with the
It's just
let's just think,
mental.
just everything that is made to make it easier to wear a watch. The end
Every
of the
little
strap,
thing is being thought of.
yeah.
Yeah, insane. Yeah, it definitely made me want one at least. But
Yeah,
for that money, you can't get anything near it.
I wanted one of them Holtons from when I first saw it at the show.
Yeah,
I like this Land Rover thing. It looks
yeah, the Land Rover's
phenomenal,
cool.
doesn't it? Yeah.
There's a thing with Land Rover, right, at the moment. Like Land
Yeah.
Rover seems a
Bamford.
very hot brand, to collab with you.
Yeah.
If anyone has just joined, so Ian's just dropped off because he had to charge his laptop up. So hopefully he's going to be coming. He'll be back with us in a few minutes, and we can continue.
Yeah.
We're an hour and 15 minutes in, so if you haven't seen the stream, please watch it when we finished. And it's a lot of amazing information. Yeah, it's ridiculously good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he'll able to join shortly. You can imagine if your computer just dies on you, you've got to reboot it and set everything up again.
Yeah. So as anyone in the chat, anyone actually want any of those models? I mean, is anyone actually thinking of buying one of those models based on the information they've seen tonight? Thomas Burnett, are you intrigued by the
Thomas is all
Holton,
over
maybe?
this as usual.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah, Ian's all over him. I think Ian was quite impressed with what was going on with it as well.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
There's been a lot of compliments on these.
yeah, a lot of people. So is anybody in the chat actually really, really triggering tonight based on what they've seen here? Let us know.
Yeah.
Oh, Ian says possibly.
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly.
Wow, excellent.
Forbin says that Land Rover is quite trippy. So
I think it's cool with that zebra kind of camo on the side.
Yeah.
yeah,
I like that. Yeah, it just makes it a bit funky, doesn't it? A bit of fun.
bit of fun. It lasts a couple of months in your collection, possibly, maybe one.
Possibly, yeah.
What?
That's an episode on its own, I think, isn't it?
It is.
The
one of you
revolving
guys
door
wanna-
of my watch collection.
Yeah, the
one of
revolving.
you
That's the
guys
whole
just wanna give-
collection theory
one-
changes as it goes. As we go through the show, it's changed.
Yeah. With each
One of
WhatsApp
you guys
message,
want to
what
give
comes
Ian
through.
a
Clown's
quick
getting out the car.
message? Batch, you want to give Ian a quick message?
Yeah, I've
Whichever one of you
only.
was speaking to him. Just
Yeah, let me just.
unless he's got a Spectrum 81 computer, I thought it would
So,
have
in the
rebooted.
chat, what has been your favourite model so far? Has it been the Holton? Has it been that Explorer? Has it been the Land Rover? Which one? Which one do you like, guys?
Oh, Jamie says Land Rover driver. He could have his arm twisted. Okay, interesting.
Ooh, okay.
Welcome, Jamie. Good.
Yes,
good
welcome
evening,
to the
sir.
show. Ian will be with us presently.
Yes. So Thomas, let me know. Are you interested in one of those military ones, mate? Go on. You know it makes sense. It's half the price of the other issued model, shall we say?
Yeah, the mechanical one's got a couple of thousand, but the quartz ones, which he's shown us, they're under 500, sub 500.
Yeah, and
which
that's
is really
and
good
to be
value.
honest, that's the issued one. The mechanical one isn't issued. The quartz one is.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
And even the Holton automatic is from 650. It's not in
yeah.
the thousands. So
Yeah, correct.
Oh, my voice is going. But Tickers, tell us what you liked. Let's keep some conversation going here. Let's not have
Sorry, guys. Sorry, I'm just thinking Ian's going to come back. Yeah, the Holton quartz, the one he showed us with the rubber strap and the broad arrow is the one I want. It's like 475 quid. It's now.
And why is that then? Why do you like that one?
Because of the military people who use it. I can't say too much, because he didn't say too much.
Oh, I
but-
see. Right, the association.
Yeah,
Okay.
the association. The association. Sorry, I'll say it's issued. I'll say it's issued. I'm not going to say who to, but it is issued, so that's why. That is why
So
I
it could be any watch in the world, as long as it's issued. It's all right.
Well,
It is
that's
issued,
what
yeah.
I'll be honest. That's the geekiness in me, isn't it? I didn't like G-Shocks until I found that G-Shocks were current issue to the Royal Navy. So
Yeah.
I got into G-Shocks, and then I found out that the Marine Nationale. Yeah, I know. I keep going on about it.
Here we go. Take another
They
drink,
were
Forbin.
Yeah,
Forbin's already drunk, I think, after your. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. Ian is almost
Ian's
with us,
back in a
and he's
second.
lost his camera. So
One in, one out.
Yeah. So
my
then I
headphones
found
will
out
probably
that
go in a minute.
I found out the Marine Nationale used to use some certain G-Shocks, so I went out and bought those G-Shocks. So I've got about 6 G-Shocks now. Jamie Appulin says FXD21 or go home. Yes. Yeah. Okay, Ian's nearly back with us, I think. Oh, says device
brilliant.
disconnected. Yeah.
Aye.
Sorry, guys. Ian just lost his connection for a bit.
Yeah, no worries. It's all good. So, yeah, for those who've just joined, definitely it's worth going back to the start of the show because there's so much information. And apologies for this slight little delay, but internet and live shows, these things happen, right? But
yeah, and you want to watch that can blow up in your spare time and you've got nothing to do in the back garden. go and get yourself an Elliot Brown.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I've been really, like it's definitely true, right? Every day is a school day in the watch world, and we've definitely been schooled tonight. Yeah.
Thomas
Brilliant.
Burnett, super chat.
Oh, sorry, I haven't.
£4.49.
£4.49. Sorry, I haven't said hello to everyone on the panel in the chat yet. Hello, Thomas Burnett.
Hey,
Hello, Thomas. Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah. Don't buy yourself an Elliot Brown. You know, it makes sense, Thomas.
Yes. Are you going to buy an Elliot Brown, Thomas? What do you reckon? Have you been sold on them yet? I'm sure the answer's pending.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for that super chat.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Right. So Ian is here. Should we see if he's?
Yep. Okay.
Ian, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys, but unfortunately, I'm on an iPad and it's refusing to accept my allowing camera. And
okay.
Should we go through the questions then? What we can do?
Because my laptop died.
Should we just go through some of the questions then instead, and then
it's fine.
You're having to put a camera on.
Happy and you can't see me. I'm really sorry about the.
No problem,
don't worry. These
no
things
problem
happen.
at all.
We've just finished the watch.
One quick question, Palm, if I can. Just wanted to know, Ian, that with your mechanical watches, do you put them through any timograph at your factory before you issue them out, or the movements just as they come?
So if you're familiar with NH35 movements, they're like little sewing machines. They're absolutely fantastic. Every watch we make goes on a. Do you know what? I don't actually know what the tester's called. It looks like a Ferris wheel with spokes, and on the end of each spoke, so each spoke rotates, fixed to a central hub, and the watch attaches to the end of that on like a C-clip, and then the whole lot rotates. So it's like a wheel with watches on the end of the spokes, and each spoke is rotating. So it puts the watch through a global
six positions. Usually six positions on a timograph. Usually you time it in 6 positions. Usually that's what the normal thing is.
So everything that we produce goes on that and is tested in every orientation it can possibly be in. Obviously, auto movements are slightly less accurate than quartz. They all have tolerances. The NH35s that we use and the Miyota movements that we use are generally better than their tolerance stats would suggest. They generally all work a little bit better than that. You know, they're pretty close to sort of chronometer standards.
Yeah, brilliant. That's excellent. Just because I know that some people just are very, very picky on the tolerances, and even though an NH35 has quite wide tolerances, people don't accept that. So it's nice to know that you actually put each particular model, each watch on the timograph and try and get it as accurate as possible. That's really good. That's excellent.
I think it's just one of those things you need to do. You know, if you're going to put your names on, if you put your names on a watch, you want to know it's not going to let you down, right?
You're right. Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely, that's great. Thank you so much. I think Palmy's now going to bring up some of the questions from the chat.
With Thomas Burnett. So, Ian, the British and Irish watchmaking scene has come on in leaps and bounds over the last decade. Have you found that associations with institutions such as the Army, etc., have been a successful factor for you?
I would say for us, they've been very successful. We need to be careful, though, not to just become a military watch brand. That's not what we want to be. It's just one of the arms of Elliot Brown, and I think it gives a sense of capability that we're capable of making a watch that can be used, you know, in the field. Therefore, you know, we have the skill to make other decent watches as well. And I think that if you look at other British brands, they've also had some success in the military community, and that's lovely to see. And I think that there's a really interesting growth of British watch companies, which is lovely, and we welcome that. We've always welcomed with open arms anybody in the watch industry. Come and talk to us. Let's share ideas. It's a big enough marketplace for us all to exist very happily in.
Excellent, thank you.
And Forbin has asked a few questions about Loom. Let me find the best. Here we go. This is the best one. It encapsulates all of his queries. How much control does Elliot Brown have over the loom amount or application? Do you ask for Seiko level or some such?
Seiko level, that's a new term. I've not heard of that one.
No, he seems to think Seiko.
But good question. So the thickness of the loom, loom is put onto a dial with a I suppose the best way to describe it is kind of very fancy potato printing. So it's a stereographic rubber, which is it's a very soft silicon rubber pad that's pressed onto the luminous ink, which is printed and then picked up by the pad and then dropped onto the dial, and the viscosity of that ink will determine how much, or the thickness, much like painting a wall, will determine how much goes on in that one layer. So the viscosity is everything, and when you use the high grade superluminova, its viscosity is such that the one application is sufficient, and it will glow very, very brightly, pretty much forever.
Wow. Excellent.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
Forbin, does that answer
yeah,
the question?
The control comes in the grade of the superluminova that we apply. There are different grades, and they vary in terms of their viscosity and luminosity.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And then Michael Paris says, have you ever been over the pond to the US and Canada? Is that a big audience for you, a big customer base for yourselves?
Yes, it is. If we look at our web stats and our web visitors, there's a large percentage. I think probably 25% of our web traffic comes from the US. Smaller amount from Canada. I think it's probably 12 or 15% from Canada. But yeah, we're very well regarded in those two nations, and our ambition is definitely to grow a little bit there. I think we're very, as anyone would, if you're highly regarded somewhere, why wouldn't you push that button?
Yeah.
We've not taken Elliot Brown there yet, but it's very much the intention to.
Awesome.
Okay, so 2023 is the year of stateside Elliot Brown. Possibly. Right. Okay, Memovox. Is it possible for an unauthorized, because of the durability of your watches? I think he's asking this question, and how much care and effort goes into assembling them and the technology. Is it possible for an unauthorized watchmaker to change the battery in the quartz models, or does it have to be serviced by Elliot Brown?
No, it doesn't. We actually made the case backs really easy to take off. You need either a 1.5 or a 1.3 mil hex key, depending on the model. And you can easily undo the 6 bolts in the case back and take the case back off. The problem that you find when you do that, if you went to a non-authorized model, is that they need to have the little rubber O-ring seals. If you can imagine, that little tiny seal has been clamped by 6 bolts for three odd years. They don't just spring back and become a new seal again. They always retain a level of compression. So when you're digging into the case back to change the battery, you need to bear that in mind, that your seal won't just pop back out and be a new seal again when you bolt the case back on. The stainless steel movement shield that we use is relatively easy to pop out of the case back to reveal what is a standard quartz movement, where you can just unclip the battery and change it. We use silver oxide batteries, and then everything that we reconstruct goes through our pressure chamber, so it comes out with a certificate that says it's been pressurized to its original state. So if you're going to have it serviced somewhere else, just make sure they've got a pressure tester. You can put the old seal back in, it can work, but make sure you get it pressure tested, then it's waterproof.
Okay, so not just, you can't take it to, I would have said Woolworths, but they don't open anymore. You can't take it to Timpson and get it changed. Yeah, you can't take it.
Yeah. Okay, our current rate's £45 for a battery change, reseal, and pressure test, and that includes the next day return shipping. So it's not exactly expensive.
That's
pretty good. It costs a tenner to send it, so 35 quid to start with. So yeah, pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. That.
Okay. One more from Thomas Burnett. Ian, would you consider Elliot Brown a micro brand still, or have you outgrown that label now to macro brand, or do you prefer the name independent?
We've never been a micro brand because we've always sold to retailers. I think a lot of micro brands set out just to sell direct to consumer, and we've never done that. We've always been a big supporter of the retail trade, both independents and multiples. So micro brand doesn't really fit that. We might be quite a small company in the grand scheme of the world of watchmaking, but no, micro brand isn't something we've ever considered ourselves to be. Have we outgrown that label? Well, we've grown, and we're just about to enter a relationship in the next couple of weeks. We'll be online with Goldsmiths.
Okay.
Which is a really lovely milestone for us to have reached. So that's definitely not micro brand territory, and we're fiercely independent. Yes, definitely. That I think is a very important thing. You know, when you're putting your names on a product, you want to be proud of it, and independence helps us. It gives us that freedom. If we have a great idea, we just make it happen.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Good way to be. So, in just in response to the loom question, I think this is stereoscopic rubber, well viscosity enough for my core oil, but I think we can say that safely. Say that answered his question.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that stereoscopic rubber is the right description. I think it's just stereo rubber, actually. I think it's just stereo rubber, not stereoscopic. I think stereoscopic is something different.
Well.
Yeah, that could be some kind of something pocket watch does. Just another question from Forbin. When you mention size of company by small, he means just the size you just mentioned previously. How does a company such as yours get a deal with mighty Land Rover? I imagine others would be green with envy. So we interviewed George Bamford the other day, and he's just done a collab with Land Rover. So that's quite a feather in your cap, isn't it, to have that collaboration in place?
Yeah.
I think the answer is authenticity and a level of quality that's without question. But it comes from having a catalogue of projects and watches that are authentic and tell their own story. We know we're not a brand of collaborations. We're a brand, and each watch tells its own story. And then we happen to collaborate with organisations that we have a lot in common with. You know, if you're sharing your brand name with somebody, you have to be really confident that it's going to work and it's not going to backfire on you. And, you know, likewise, Land Rover have to be super careful about that, right? They're a worldwide brand, so they don't want to partner with anybody that might, you know, look bad for them or be Mickey Mouse. So it definitely works both ways, and it was just a genuine meeting of minds. You know, they're lovely people that we've been fortunate enough to work with. The very first meeting, we just hit it off as people. You know, we just got on as people, and we shared ideas, we shared designs, and it was just a really lovely collaborative process. We were really surprised actually how an organisation as big as Land Rover could be so human in its approach to a company like ours.
Brilliant.
Wow, it's just
Brilliant.
Excellent. So if you don't ask, you don't get, and treat people with respect and know what you're talking about, basically, and deliver what you promise.
Be authentic. Yeah.
Excellent.
Excellent.
So one more question. Just
one more question. Sorry,
from Ian. Just talk about yourself, Ian. This is not anything about the watch. This is from our mod, Ian Nicholson. Mr. Elliot, it sounds like you have a great success in business, and I hope it continues. What do you do, or how do you relax in your spare time? Being such a, having so many interests, what is it that makes, you unwind? What would help you relaxing that you got so many fingers in so many pies?
Have you heard of wing foiling?
No, I think you did tell me about it at the show, but would you like to care to tell the viewers? Because
Ian, thanks for your question. It's a great question. If you Google wing foiling, that's my latest pastime. We're very lucky that our office is on the edge of Poole Harbour, and I've always had passion for the water and for other sports like downhill mountain biking and things like that. it's doing those things is such a tonic. There's so much in the media around mental health and physical health, and working by the sea, working by the harbour is a tonic in itself. Just our offices we have sort of floor to ceiling views over Poole Harbour in the islands, and that in itself, especially during lockdown, was unbelievable. Just going to the office, we felt really lucky. But pastimes we're very lucky that we've chosen to live in Poole because we're surrounded by the Purbeck Hills, which are fantastic for mountain biking, running, walking. You can just go on a lovely walk with a dog, or and have a picnic, and the views are spectacular. But likewise, you can get on the water. We can surf, we can windsurf, we can paddleboard, we can paddleboard surf, kite surf, all of that stuff. Poole's a mecca for water sports. And so last year I took up wingfoiling. I've always windsurfed since I was about 14. Windsurfed in the waves at Kimmeridge Bay, and I think there's a little bit of fad about it. There's definitely a trend. If you look at the way water sports are going, if you're windsurfing, you're on a foiling board. If you're kite surfing, you're on a foiling board. There's foiling surfboards. But wingfoiling is you basically stand on a board which has a mast which sticks down into the water, and on the bottom of that is a foil which looks a little bit like an aeroplane. It has a front wing, a fuselage, and a back wing. And you stand up on the board. You hold what's called a wing, which is a kind of like a big kite, and that generates forward momentum. Your body acts like the mast, and as the board starts to go forwards, the foil in the water generates lift, and it lifts the board off the surface of the water, and you glide along. And the only thing in the water is the foil, and it's absolutely silent, but you can go up and down nearly a meter. So the sensation is like riding a snowboard in powder snow. Winter, I'd do that. I'd ride snowboards and have a pair of twin tip skis. This summer I went off, did a downhill mountain bike event. I'm sorry, my camera isn't working. I'm actually wearing a top tonight from the event. It's called the Passeport du Soleil, and we did 88 kilometers of downhilling in a day, 9.5 hours in the saddle. And that's with assisted uplift. So we were using chairlifts and cable cars to go up, and just pointing the bike downhill for what was 9.5 hours, and that for me is everything I need. That's switching off and relaxing and having fun at the same time.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Brilliant. Sorry, I've got one more question, John. I know you
want
to wrap
go
up.
for it. Sorry, that's fine.
Just one more.
No.
The Land Rover Holtons. Is there any chance you'll ever be making any more? Because it's such a cool watch.
I think you have to watch this space.
Oh, that sounds promising.
Okay,
that sounded promising.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's not a no.
That does sound promising. That's not a no. No. Wow.
But make sure to bookmark the website and check it daily on the collaboration page.
Website daily, people. This is
absolutely brilliant.
You could get your hands on the.
Don't want to miss that.
Yeah. Okay, producer Palmer, are we done?
I just dropped the website in the chat one more time.
Yeah, drop the website. Yeah, please, everybody go and check the website out.
Yes.
Yeah, excellent. Everybody, please go and watch all of the stream from start to finish if you've come in late, and please go and check out the website for these wonderful watches. Ian, thank you so much. For anyone who joined late, so Ian's camera's packed in. He was with us earlier, so we better see that. But thank you very much, Ian, for joining us. It was absolutely fantastic. A wealth of information about your wonderful watches.
It's been a real pleasure, gents, and thank you everyone who's tuned in. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Brilliant. Please stay there, and we'll just play the outro, and we'll have a quick chat if that's okay for a few minutes in the back room. I'd much appreciate that. So goodbye, everybody. Thank you very much to Andy and Palm as normal for your wonderful work you do for this channel. Thank you, everybody. Please subscribe. Please give some love for the channel if you're new. I'll just play the outro, and we will see you all again soon. Thank you very much.